reasons why this murder neatly fits a theory of a nationwide satanic cult. We only have to look at Terry's evidence concerning Bill Mentzner and his early years in California, including his relationship to the Manson family. Mentzner is a link that ties together not only Charles Manson and the Roy Radin murder, but also those separate cases and the Son of Sam murders in New York City, as well as other murders across the country. While the author does not wish to reignite the satanic cult hysteria of the 1980s, it is important to look at this evidence soberly, for the murders in question are not the key reasons why an understanding of the Manson-Sam cult is critical. Rather, the murders, while vile enough in and of themselves, are only one aspect of the group's activities. Again, from Sinister Forces, Grimoire of American Political Witchcraft, Book 3, The Manson Secret, by Peter Levenda. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. There's a lot of chatter in the news. And usually when there's a lot of chatter and there's a lot of activity going on in the news, that usually tells me that there's something brewing, something's going to happen. Because there is activity on so many different fronts. First of all, you have the extension of several of the provisions of the Patriot Act, which were set to expire at the end of this year, coming out of the Senate committee. I'd urge everyone who has any desire to maintain liberty in this country to contact your senators and congressmen to tell them to not vote for this extension when it comes to the full Senate and House for a vote, to actually allow these provisions to die. Because one of them is the sneak a look at your library records without telling you, which is just foolish and ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, and anything that we can take away from the Patriot Act, any provisions that we can regain as far as our rights are concerned, is a chipping away of the tyranny and the totalitarian nature of the government that we live under. So any small victory is better than none at all at this point in time. So if we can even get one of these provisions to die, it would certainly go a long way towards trying to reestablish our own inalienable rights in this country again, instead of living under the police state fucking tyranny that we do. Also, there was a major attack in Pakistan which had so-called terrorists and Al-Qaeda infiltrating the Pakistani army and in desperate effort to try and cause mayhem and panic and terror, of course. And this went on for like 2 days, and finally the Pakistanis were able to get it under control. But obviously this is to show that our so-called allies, the Pakistanis, the nuclear-armed Pakistanis, are not really in control of their own country. So this will only further our own involvement in Pakistan. So be not surprised when this occurs. Also, we have an emerging strategy in Afghanistan by the Obama administration, and that is one that would seek to concentrate more on the so-called terrorist Al-Qaeda connection rather than on a purely military outlook. And of course there's been a lot of talk on both sides, both fake sides of the issue, about whether or not this has any merit or whether it is a good strategy or what are the dangers, etc., etc. The fact of the matter is we're staying engaged, we're staying involved, our troops are continuing to stay there. Whatever you want to call it, we're still there. We're still killing people, and we're still engaged in fucking war. So whatever kind of thing you want to spin it on, it's still death and destruction brought to you courtesy of the United States government. Now, also you have Iran in the background. You also have China making waves. Seems like things have cooled off a little bit with Russia, but only temporarily in my view, because there's still a matter of several different missile systems, which may play a role in how diplomacy is going to go with them. So, like I said, a lot of chatter. And there's also a terrorism case in this country where apparently the investigators can't find the explosives that were going to be used by a supposed terrorist for blowing up something or other. So I wouldn't be surprised yet again to see something happen in this country. But the fact is that there's a lot of talk about the economy and the recovery that we've made and how the recession is easing, and the Federal Reserve is talking about maybe raising interest rates to rein in the monetary supply and to tighten things up, and everything looks rosy. But this is the kind of time when all of these different things are going on when you should expect something to happen, because people's minds are divided on the one hand, and on the other, they're focused on what they want to perceive, because reality is what you perceive it to be. So don't be surprised, and I'm not going to try to put out any dates here because I hate it when people say, ooh, this date and that date, and they're always fucking wrong, because nobody knows. I mean, except the people that are behind it, if it's orchestrated or manufactured. So, but I see a new economic situation developing, maybe even worsening. Not exactly sure how that's going to pan out, but with gold continuing to rise, that always signals that the stock market and or the dollar are going to take a dive. And while they continue to remain strong, one of them has to give. And that will be the telling point right there, which one it's going to be. And I think it's going to be the stock market and the dollar. So some sort of economic calamity, possibly some sort of homegrown terrorist activity, which will be totally concocted and completely controlled, in my view. False flag, as it were. And possibly more attacks on U.S. interests outside of this country as well, in order to further a globalist agenda. And let's not forget the EU, which the Lisbon Treaty was passed by Ireland, much to my chagrin, but only after spending millions of dollars in propaganda to fear the people into agreeing to it. But there still are some ripples of freedom there in Europe, mainly with the Czech Republic. So once that thing goes through, it's almost like a behemoth. It's going to take over just like the former USSR. So, you know, the whole thing going on with Europe is definitely something to be concerned about as well, with the Lisbon Treaty and with the European Union. So that bears watching as well. And so, you know, keep your eyes on things, because there's a lot going on and there's a lot of shit happening, and it could signify some big moves and big changes coming sometime soon. So just be ready and be prepared like you always should be. Thank you. Good night.